The first scream didn't come from fear. It came from shame. Every customer in the crowded daytime cafe quietly stood up, picked up their drinks, and walked away the moment a young woman stepped through the door beside the city's most feared mafia boss. No one wanted to sit near her. No one wanted to look at her. Some whispered about her father. Others simply pretended she didn't exist. She lowered her eyes, clutched a worn notebook against her chest, and accepted the loneliness as though it had become part of her heartbeat. But one poor waitress noticed something everyone else had missed. The young woman wasn't arrogant, dangerous, or cold. She was simply mute, and desperately hoping that, just once, someone would see her instead of her father's shadow. Before we continue, if you believe kindness can change a life, forgiveness is stronger than hatred, hope is worth fighting for, and everyone deserves a second chance, please like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone you care about, and subscribe to our channel. Every act of support helps our community continue sharing stories that remind us compassion still exists. Maren had worked at the little family cafe for almost 3 years. Every morning she arrived before sunrise, cleaned the tables, brewed fresh coffee, smiled through aching feet, and quietly wondered how she would ever pay her mother's medical bills. She lived in a tiny apartment where every dollar mattered, yet she never allowed hardship to steal her kindness. The regular customers admired her warm smile, but few knew that behind it was constant worry, unpaid rent, and nights spent calculating which expense could wait another week. Still, she believed people should never carry their pain into someone else's life. The entire city knew the name Alistair Graves. Newspapers called him a businessman. Rumors called him something much darker. People claimed he controlled powerful organizations, settled conflicts before police even heard about them, and possessed enough influence to make problems disappear. Whether the stories were true hardly mattered anymore because fear had become stronger than facts. Wherever he appeared, conversations stopped. Eyes turned away. Doors quietly opened. Walking beside him that afternoon was his 20-year-old daughter, Ilara. She had never spoken a single word in her life. A rare medical condition had left her unable to speak, but she heard everything perfectly. She communicated through sign language, facial expressions, and handwritten notes. Sadly, most people never stayed long enough to understand any of them. When Alistair entered the cafe, silence spread faster than spilled coffee. Customers hurried to leave. Even employees suddenly became busy wiping already clean counters. Maren noticed Ilara's trembling fingers gripping her notebook tighter each passing second. The young woman didn't appear embarrassed by the empty cafe. She looked accustomed to it, and that realization hurt even more. Instead of stepping away like everyone else, Maren walked over carrying 2 glasses of water. She smiled warmly before gently signing a simple greeting she had learned years earlier while volunteering at a community center for children with hearing disabilities. Ilara's eyes widened with complete disbelief. For the first time that day, someone had spoken directly to her instead of speaking around her. Her hands began moving rapidly through beautiful, expressive signs. Maren couldn't understand everything anymore because she had forgotten much over the years, but she remembered enough to continue the conversation. Whenever she became confused, Ilara laughed silently, writing short sentences inside her notebook. The conversation flowed naturally, free from fear or judgment. Across the table, Alistair remained perfectly still. Powerful men were used to buying respect. He had never witnessed simple kindness freely given to his daughter. Every restaurant they visited treated Ilara like invisible luggage. Every event became another reminder that people feared association more than they valued humanity. Yet this exhausted waitress earning minimum wage had offered something money had failed to purchase. Dignity. From that afternoon onward, Alistair and Ilara quietly returned every week. They always came during daylight hours when the cafe was busiest. At first, customers continued avoiding them. But something unexpected slowly happened. They noticed Maren laughing with Ilara through signs, patiently waiting while she wrote responses, celebrating tiny conversations that required patience instead of words. Children became curious instead of frightened. An elderly couple asked Maren to teach them how to sign "thank you." A teenage boy learned how to introduce himself. Little by little, one table after another stopped moving away. The atmosphere changed not because fear disappeared overnight but because kindness proved stronger than assumptions. One afternoon, Maren noticed bruises hidden beneath Ilara's sleeve. Panic filled her heart. She gently asked through signs whether someone had hurt her. Ilara hesitated before writing a heartbreaking sentence. She explained that everyone believed her father protected her from the world, but no one realized she constantly tried protecting him from becoming even harder. She often stood between him and violent decisions, reminding him through silent gestures that every frightened person was someone's child. The bruises came from shielding others during dangerous arguments inside his organization. She wasn't afraid for herself. She feared losing the last piece of goodness still alive inside her father. Maren carried those words with her for days. Soon afterward, tragedy struck. Maren's mother collapsed and required immediate surgery. The hospital demanded payment her family simply didn't have. Every bank rejected another loan application. She worked double shifts until exhaustion blurred her vision, but it still wasn't enough. She never mentioned her struggle to Alistair. She refused to ask favors from anyone feared by an entire city. Yet somehow, he learned the truth. The following morning, an envelope appeared beneath the cafe register containing enough money to cover every medical expense. No name. No note. Just one folded piece of paper featuring a simple drawing of two hands signing the word, Hope. Maren instantly recognized Alara's handwriting. She cried quietly before finishing her shift. When she finally visited the hospital later that afternoon, she discovered every bill had already been paid anonymously. She understood who had done it. Instead of gratitude, confusion filled her heart. Why would people described as monsters quietly rescue strangers without expecting recognition? Days later, she thanked Alara through sign language. Alara gently shook her head before writing another sentence. She explained that kindness given without expecting reward had changed her father's heart more than years of wealth ever had. Watching someone treat his daughter like an ordinary young woman instead of a burden forced him to question every choice that had built his empire. Not long afterward, astonishing news spread across the city. Several criminal operations connected to Alistair voluntarily dissolved. Businesses once controlled through fear became legitimate companies. Scholarship funds appeared for children with disabilities. Community centers teaching sign language received anonymous donations. Nobody believed coincidence. People whispered that the feared Mafia boss had finally begun walking away from the darkness. No newspaper ever printed the true reason. It wasn't a police investigation. It wasn't prison. It wasn't revenge. It was one struggling waitress who chose compassion over fear. Months later, the cafe looked completely different. Families filled every table. Children happily greeted Alara using sign language. She no longer entered hidden behind lowered eyes. She smiled openly beneath the warm afternoon sunlight streaming through the windows. Maren watched with tears as strangers included Alara in conversations without hesitation. The loneliness that had followed her for years slowly disappeared, replaced by genuine belonging. Before we reach the end of this story, tell us in the comments, have you ever changed someone's life with a small act of kindness, or has someone changed yours when you needed it most? Your story may inspire someone who is struggling today. Years later, Maren often reflected that she had never defeated fear with strength, money, or influence. She defeated it with patience, respect, and the courage to see a human being where everyone else saw a reputation. Alara discovered that her silent voice could echo through countless lives, proving that compassion speaks louder than words ever could. Even Alistair learned that true power isn't measured by the number of people who fear you, but by the number of lives made better because you chose mercy instead of control. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, leave a meaningful comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to our channel so you never miss another emotional journey. Thank you for being part of our family and our community, where every story reminds us that one small act of kindness can transform even the hardest heart.